Get all these pins out of here.
Good evening.
Good evening.
To all of you listeners at home and abroad. My name is Chaz Dunkwell.
Thaddeus.
And I will be presenting to you Cause and Defect, the show for serious conversations with not so serious people. We have a hell of a show for you today.
Yes, we do. I feel like we should have on some robes and cigars with a fireplace in the background or something. Yes.
And a scotch. Good old scotch. This is episode 14. We're going to be talking about UFOs. I know in episode 13 it may have been misleading that we were talking about the Fermi Paradox.
It did appear that way afterwards, definitely.
UFO, we're trying to go about a little flow of things as we trek along this podcast.
Right. So it'll all tie together.
Right. So UFOs and aliens are correlated, obviously, but they're not exactly the same thing. So we're going to have a little discussion about unidentified flying objects today. Not about
could be
aliens.
the same thing. Who knows?
They may be
sometimes in some cases.
Right. There's a lot of leeway here, as we will discuss, no doubt.
There's always shit everywhere.
But at first, we are going to start with a game. Well, it's not really a game so much as it is a casual conversation.
It is a casual conversation.
We're just going to bring up some things that have been on our minds lately. Sorry, I'm talking over you right now.
No, it's okay. I'm just blabbering on. I literally said the same thing you said, just back to you.
It's all good. But we're just going to bring up a couple subjects we wanted to discuss at the beginning. We'll do that, and I don't know how long it'll last. Who knows with us, but we'll end with a game of quick reactions. I don't know what we called that.
Yeah, I don't have a clue what we called it, but it's basically where we just say random things and you just have to respond to it instantly. It's just whatever comes off the top of your head.
That's right.
You just spit it back out and keep going one after the other.
For obvious reasons, we think that will be super fun.
Yes, it's hilarious. So we'll start. What's been on your plate these days?
I am thinking about our upcoming hike.
Ooh, yes.
I'm very excited about this.
Yes, that's going to be awesome.
As some of you, probably hardly any of you know, we we go on hikes sporadically. We vowed at one point to do it once a year, but it's been 2 years.
Yeah.
And we are going to go on the Appalachian Trail and hike for about 5 days.
For about 5 days.
Yeah.
And so that's like 40 miles.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
I am too. And while it's on my mind, I am going to take a moment to admire our beers that we have sitting here.
Beers of the day.
Exactly. The beers of the day. Like we said in the last episode, we drink beers almost, not just beers, but drinks as well almost every episode.
Yeah, pretty much every episode, yeah.
So we thought we'd have a little drink moment at some point in every podcast episode. Today, we have a Stone Tangerine Express IPA.
Yes. Tangerine and pineapple.
Generally not a fan of IPAs, honestly.
But Stone does everything right.
Stone does a damn good job of what
I've never had a bad beer by them, I don't think.
Really. There are some IPAs. This is one that I can stand when it starts to get into double IPAs and stuff like that.
Some dippas.
Not as much for me.
I can't do it either. It's too much. It's like an imperial stout. Like this is too much.
Mm-hmm.
Too much alcohol.
It is.
There's just too much bitterness to an IPA.
For me there's no point. I enjoy drinking beer.
Right.
So put the correct amount of hops in it, please.
Right. If you have to really work through it, there's no point to it. Just get a different one.
I say correct. Yeah, you're right.
You know what I mean?
You're right.
So there is one thing I'm also excited about besides the hike, which I'm very excited about that, except I have to go get a bunch more shit, and we leave in like a week and a half. But that things are finally open up, which could pose maybe a little problem for our hiking trip. Hopefully not.
That's another thing that I actually put down to talk about in this little conversation bit. So
nice.
Glad you brought it up. We're already on cue here.
I got you here.
But yeah, I'm not as concerned about it for our hike as I am concerned about it in general, because I feel like a lot of people are going
public
to
safety.
Yeah, a lot of people are going to take the fact that things are opening up with, I'm good to be myself, my normal unsanitary self.
Right. It's fine now.
Yeah.
I think there are, though, a lot of people that are like, hell no, I'm not going to be the first person out there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we'll let the first wave of people that just don't give a shit go out there and see what happens. And of course, it's going to go up a little bit, but if it doesn't go up dramatically, then everyone else will join in.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And we'll be back to loads of traffic on the way to work.
Unfortunately so, and I'll be back to work, period.
Yeah, I was about to say for the people that do work.
And I pretty much drive for a living, so I'm going to be dealing with that traffic thing a lot, and I already despise how bad a lot of drivers are, but I'll deal with it, I suppose.
Yeah, seriously. I thought about how cool your job would be, but then I realized that you have to drive a lot.
That's the main thing
and
that I
would
feel
piss
like
me
deters
off.
people from the job that I have.
Yeah, that would piss me off eventually. I thought about the same for the guys that like work with us. They drive like sometimes 2 to 3 hours a day, if not more.
Yeah, I definitely drive more than that on average.
Oh gosh, that would be brutal. I couldn't do it.
Mm-hmm. It's not bad for me. I feel it as like there's a point where it becomes just emotion. It's like muscle memory. I get to the point where I don't even have to think about it, and I can think about other things or listen to music and mind my own business for the majority of the day.
It sounds terrible at the same time. It's like, I'm just completely not there at all while I'm driving. But I know what you mean.
You can listen to podcasts.
You get like an autopilot.
Yeah, you can listen to informative books. Is that a word? Informative books.
I'm sure it worked. Everyone would get what you meant.
Maybe, but informative is the better word. Let's get there.
Right.
But that's really ending the coronavirus was one of my main talking points.
I get to go back to the gym, and that's great.
Yeah,
so I don't have to be a fat fuck.
But that's such an unsanitary place too. You need to be safe.
And there's gonna be a ton of people going though. I bet.
Yeah.
Because so many people have been just locked up in their house for months, or not locked up, but you pretty much
Pent
can't
up.
do anything.
They're gonna be out there going.
Dude. They're gonna be really getting it in. Restaurants are gonna be the same way. I feel like though.
Yeah,
there's gonna be a lot of people out.
But restaurants are establishing quotas anyways. I'm pretty sure.
I went to a brewery the other day, and it was like the outside was pretty packed. Like every table was taken up. Like people were their own chairs everywhere.
I'm
like
sure
there was a lot of
like
people
that.
out there. So
it's gone.
The inside was clear at first, and then but before I left, there was a lot of people there. The inside was full too, pretty much. People weren't like standing at the bar, and they had hand sanitizer and shit. But otherwise, there was a lot of people.
It still sticks in my mind, that guy that I saw at the gas station. I mean, it makes sense to do it, but it just hit home for me when I saw him do it. Is sanitizing with Lysol the handle of the gas pump itself and the screen. He was out there with gloves and shit. I get it.
He's being very careful.
Yeah. It makes sense.
There is like a bottle of sanitizer in like my passenger seat that I just pump all the time. Like anywhere I do anything, like I always do that because
smart.
I'm already weird about that stuff anyways. Like door handles and shit, I really don't like touching. But just pretty much anything, I'd rather just have it next to me so I can use it. Mm-hmm. So hopefully people will get in that habit and just keep it going.
Yeah.
Even after all of this.
Right. I agree with that. I'm hoping that it changes their people's sanitary habits in general. That would be.
We're gonna find out. I'd love to be optimistic, but maybe for a short period. But eventually,
it'll get back to normal.
People are just fucking gross.
Yeah,
and a lot of people don't even believe the shit's real in the first place. So.
Yeah, I can't see a virus. You're gonna tell me it? I mean, the people can really just make up any picture that you see. It's all digitally rendered, bro. None of it's real.
Yes, that is true about the coronavirus.
Yeah, right. But another thing I wanted to talk about before we get out of our little conversation corner is, for some reason, I was thinking about China earlier today.
What about it? There's a lot of things about China.
There's a lot of things about it. Like, I was thinking more along the lines of our dependence on China. Because I've been getting a larger than normal amount of Amazon packages lately because I've been ordering things I need for the hike and that kind of stuff.
Right.
But I've noticed, and I should have been paying more attention to this, I guess, pre-buy. But everything comes from China.
Yeah, I believe it, man.
All of it.
I think I don't know the exact number on it, but I know they own like a significant portion of our national debt.
Yeah,
like is owed to them.
And that, I mean, it just kills me that they can have such high manufacturing efficiency because of communism. It's literally because of communism that they can do this, and America is just, we talk so much shit about communism, but our economy could not be as it is right now without it.
They're soaking it up. I mean, I'd have to say most of the like really big corporations have something in China.
Yeah.
Like they all
cheap
rely
labor.
on China. Exactly.
American labor is not cheap.
Right.
We're very entitled. People are not okay with taking
Yeah.
a low
Freaking-
dollar a day.
Right. They want to put minimum wage at $15 an hour. People aren't going to take the $2.50 that they make there.
Yeah, and there's also a problem with companies not caring that they're getting child labor for $1. Like they only care about the cheapness of it.
Yeah.
And so they will outsource everything.
Yeah,
I mean,
despite how people are treated, even like,
yeah.
like
And you hear the stories about people jumping off buildings in China because
they have like nets and shit around the building to keep them from killing themselves.
Unbelievable, guys. They have had so many people jump off of the roof of these buildings. They felt the need to put nets to catch them. How? Wow.
Yeah.
That says so much.
That's terrible, but it just money rules all. So
yeah, it does.
And if they're not seeing it, like the people that are making all the money aren't seeing these factories, so they're pretty much just disconnected with it altogether. So they just couldn't give a shit.
As
They're
long
like,
as
oh
they get
yeah,
their product.
it's fucking how cheap? Yeah, we'll take it.
Right.
Despite where it comes from, who gives a shit?
It's just unbelievable.
But ultimately, do we all contribute to that every time we buy something from China?
Absolutely.
So it comes down to pretty much everyone's fault.
Yeah.
But what do you? I mean, that would be such a change of pace for anybody to stop getting products from China.
And you would have to start. I don't know. Gosh, man, I'm not an economics expert, but for people to completely stop buying things from China, it would be a real burden on the people to. I mean, it would almost not be worth it, especially for people that are low and middle income. They're not going to pay attention to that kind of shit.
Right.
They're a lot more worried about being able to live decent lives themselves.
You know what I just thought of on the contrary to this would be that I bet China has a lot of business in America, not nearly as much as we have there, but to squander everything we have there would also affect us probably here too.
Yeah, I'm sure they benefit off of us in a way.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a leech and
it's just
and
partnerships.
A subject, yeah. But I just wanted to talk about China a little bit because I kind of realized earlier today that everything that I've been getting has come from China, and it kind of hurts my soul to know that so many little Chinese fingers are contributing to my way of life.
That's not going to change for a long time for us. Mm-hmm. Like I said, it would have to change people way too much, and then we'd have to like go to war with them probably eventually, and that just wouldn't be good.
I mean, I kind of touched on this last episode, but we probably are sort of at war with them already in just kind of a different fashion, like an economic war.
Yeah, I don't know what.
And vying for control in places of, vying for control in places of interest that have oil and natural resources, having a little political warfare in that way. Lots of quasi warfare that they don't have to report to Congress or get Congress's permission to do. They just do it.
That shit would take years and forever to accomplish what you need.
Yeah. It's the long game, long con.
Well, we'll see who comes out on top because
right now it seems like China's got the upper hand.
Yeah, my bet is not really on us at this point.
Then again, it's all. I don't want to say it's all, but a lot of. I don't know if this is valid, but a lot of what China has on us is all electronic. Like it literally doesn't even matter. It's almost like we've conned them into giving us these things, and we're just never going to pay back the debt for it. Almost,
yeah.
Just like bullies. We're just like, you fucking gave me that.
Right.
I'm a shitty credit owner.
There's a lot of energy and things come from us. I mean, I'm sure they have their own things, but of course, but.
Yeah, and our demand in general gets them money. I don't know what else.
Yeah, true. I don't. Right now I don't see us on top, but I don't. If the only way I think they would ever be able to go at like a real war with us is if they got like Russia involved or something.
What? Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a international politics guy. It would be interesting.
I have no idea about any of it, but
I mean, I don't think either of us could really imagine the complexity that goes into foreign relations in that respect. That's a tough thing to gather.
That would take years of studying.
Yeah,
and I don't want to do that for that subject.
Nope, me neither. I would rather do that for a subject like UFOs.
Let's move on, please. So we're actually going to talk about UFOs this time instead of the misleading episode we posted last week, where it does indeed have a UFO on it.
Yeah.
However,
My bad.
Yeah. However, it was more pertaining to aliens and foreign life in the universe.
That's right.
And this is not about that.
Right. So, I mean, as you know, UFO stands for unidentified flying object.
Yep.
It's not necessarily correlated with aliens.
Yeah, it can be.
Right. In culture, is that a cult is already probably short for culture. But in cult lore and that kind of stuff, UFOs and aliens are tight.
Yep.
They're right there.
That's
with
right.
each other.
Because anything that we can't identify must be from a far out place in the universe.
That's right. Exactly. There's no other explanation.
Yeah, there really isn't. It wouldn't, yeah. No sort of godlike creature. It couldn't be that because there's only one of those.
Well, there is another explanation, which I'll probably get into towards the end of the episode.
Okay. I'm excited about that.
I think it's funny that people think there's no other solution other than it had to come from 100 billion light years away if it's even like the slightest bit foreign to us, you know.
Right.
Either God did it or aliens did it.
You're right. That's a great thing to
I'll end it on that.
Right, but it goes back to that just wanting to know something that isn't like ordinary or common knowledge.
Yeah.
I felt like that door was open. Sorry. So where do you think like people got so obsessed with UFOs?
Man,
because I know this, I don't think that would relate back to a long time ago, especially before they knew what like vehicles were. If they saw something, they wouldn't like necessarily think it to be a UFO. I mean, I don't know.
A vehicle?
Yeah, a vehicle of some sort.
I think most of it involves flight,
vehicle, but automobile.
and just things that there are. So I didn't want to get into this early, but I will. Most UFOs, when people see them, I'm not an expert on this, obviously.
Right. Of course, we explained that long ago.
I think that most UFOs are a case of mistaken identity.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they're a natural phenomenon that can cause UFOs, things that happen in the air that are tough to explain what they are.
Right.
I don't honestly, off the top of my head, know of any explanations. If you look them up,
I have a good example.
Yeah. Packets of gas and stuff like that.
Well, essentially what it is. So, and also, I may have told the story on here before. I can't remember. But I was on the way home from Lugoff to here, I think. Hell yeah, Bo. And I just saw like this crazy streak of green light like go through the air. And obviously that's not very normal. So it totally caught my attention because I'm on the freeway in this big open sky. And I looked at it and I saw the big green streak and then it just disappeared. But a lot of that is like we get hit by tons of little like comets and
they just burn up in the atmosphere.
They just burn up in the atmosphere. And those different colored lights, like you learn this in chemistry and going through high school, like carbon burns green or something like that. And sometimes they'll have like nickel in them and they'll burn a certain color. And so they just burn up through the atmosphere. And that's what people see for like streaming lights. I mean, that happened to me. So that's just one example of things that I'm sure people attribute it to. It just being some alien.
Right. I mean, that's especially in the past, that would be an easy thing for someone to do.
Right, because it would happen all the time, too, especially, I was going to say in a more unstable universe, but 200,000 years ago is not really that long in comparison to the Earth itself. So it wasn't that much different, I bet.
And there are like schizophrenics and stuff like that may see things that actually didn't happen.
Well, I think just normal people do that.
Yeah.
I mean,
something that extreme, I don't know if I would say that's a normal person.
Well, yeah, not that extreme. I would say it would go to people with like some sort of sleep paralysis or something when they're asleep, but they can't move and they dream crazy things and they just think they saw something that was so vibrant, I guess they thought it was real. But on most cases, I think people are just... I'd say in general, it's hard to trust your senses. So it's easy to just think you saw something and make a good memory or a story about it.
Right, that's true. But it comes to a point where it's not a case of mistaken identity, right? Like let's say hundreds of people see the same thing.
Right.
That's a little tougher to explain. And that's why I wrote down a couple of examples.
Hit me.
So on April 6th, 1966, in Westall, Australia, 2 schools canceled classes after 3 reported. Some reported 1. This one lady I saw was saying 3 initially, but it all ends up the same anyways. These aircraft one aircraft hovered over a school for over 20 minutes and just sat there. And then I think she said one of them landed on the far side of the school. And then they all took off, joined 5 similar ships, and blasted off into nothingness.
Wow. And they all had pretty similar stories?
Yes. And there were over... I didn't write it down. But there were hundreds of witnesses. And both schools canceled classes that day. Like, it was a serious thing. So explaining something like that, it's a little tougher.
How much of this, though, do you think are just some military experiments with some shit?
That's another barrier to that, UFOs being an alien story. I personally would think that most of them are probably sanctioned military tests.
Because that they have some crazy equipment that none of us can even fathom hardly.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
I mean... They have to,
and I think the fact that we talked about this probably a couple of weeks ago, but I think the fact that the Navy released it was 3 different UFO sightings.
Yeah, it was 3 different videos.
Right. Okay.
So
they released these 3 and claimed them to be legitimate.
Yeah, said they were legitimate and said that they technically are to this day still unidentified flying objects.
Right. So them releasing that the way that I told it to you is that it scares me to know that they are okay with the public knowing that, because I know that they have a lot more than that if they're okay with releasing it to the public.
Yeah, and they had already leaked on the internet before. And so I think they just saw something and they just kind of wanted to clear it up, and so it would, I don't know, I guess calm people to know that it's true information coming out or something like that. But
I guess like maybe give them a little more trust.
Yeah, but
I mean, I still just see it as a play.
Right, but still, even though like just because it's unidentified, and I guess we don't know what it is, it's hard to say it's just life from a different place.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I'm not disagreeing with you there. I think it's more possible that they know exactly what that thing is and they're just not going to say.
Yeah, I think there's a lot more to it than I always think that, maybe they found some shit like a long time ago, like some hardware, and decided to, like the government try to create some anti-gravity shit and just are playing with stuff and people see it all over the place.
Yeah, right. And of course they would try to separate themselves from the UFOs, because the phenomenon of UFOs catches lots of, I didn't mean to say skeptics, lots of conspiratorial eyes. So people look at those things and pay attention to those things. They know that. Right. So they're going to play against that if they can.
And everybody wants to believe that aliens are real. I think that's why it's so easy to be popular. Because it's just a form of like religion being popular. Everybody wants to believe that there's something there. And,
something beyond.
Right. And that was just like our first glances into the universe. We had to think that something was out there. And
that's right.
Like that thought's never going to go away. And to think we have any shred of evidence of it with, certain videos or stories that people tell, it's going to be fascinating. People are going to just hook onto it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why so many alien movies have been made. Lots of science fiction
they're always
stuff.
Fun to think about.
It is. And this is where it brings me to the Battle for Los Angeles, which was, they made a movie about it.
Yeah,
of course, it was exaggerated.
I want to go back and watch it now. Of course, was it like some War of the World shit, like with Tom Cruise?
Sorta. It was a little different, and it was modern. It wasn't. So the Battle for Los Angeles, the actual UFO sighting, it wasn't a UFO sighting. It was just a happening that happened during the World War. So during World War
like
II.
A couple weeks or something after Pearl Harbor.
Yeah.
A couple months, maybe 3 months or so.
Right. So it happened in Los Angeles. Basically, the sirens started happening, and then they started shooting missiles and bullets into the sky,
thinking
it may have been
another
a foreign Air
invasion
Force or whatever. and they never saw anything, but they fired for over an hour into the sky with bullets and missiles.
That's crazy. Yeah, and I saw that a couple, like maybe 5, or there was a certain amount of casualties. I think it was in the single numbers, but people just dying of like heart attacks, and then people running into each other in the streets listening to the radio, and they shut down the city pretty much.
And I think this is part of the reason why the government has admitted that if they had alien contact, it would not be a good idea to tell the public.
Well, I think anything like that until like some very obvious shit comes out where you can't hide it anymore, they're not gonna. I don't feel like they would openly tell us. There would be no reason to, especially if people aren't like just mysteriously dying, which maybe there are from
yeah, maybe they made a deal.
Yeah, right. You think there's like some link there where people are just dying out in like Nevada, or like
for the sake of research.
Yeah, right. And aliens are abducting them.
Who freaking knows, man?
That's hilarious. So like what I was saying about the government taking their kind of hardware, I guess, and using it to make ships and experiment with. Do you think I guess you pretty much just answered that, but do you think they would tell us about that, or certain parts of it? Not just like there's UFOs, but that we have some shred of evidence of it and use it for ourselves.
Well, yeah, in a way. I mean, I'm seeing it as like a chess tactic. You know, they have what happens. They know exactly what happens, and they know that they're a big funnel for information. And they're at liberty to sift through that funnel and say exactly what they need to say to get whatever goal they need done, or keep whatever media outlets or free media out of the way.
Okay.
That's just the way that I see it. I don't know. I don't think they would really tell us.
Right. Especially if it's government. They pretty much have unlimited money.
Yeah. It's like it's an information war, just like everything else nowadays. I don't know.
Yeah, I can't imagine they would tell people, especially like even if they knew UFOs were aliens, or if we had something of, some remnants of them, there would be no point to tell people unless there was like serious threat to the average person. Right.
And even then, depending on the threat level, like if it was a super high threat level and everybody was going to die, I don't know. They might not tell anybody regardless, even if it was going to be like a minor conflict or.
Well, I think like I know they make stories of like, certain big asteroids are headed towards the Earth, but they'll be like hundreds or like thousands of miles away or something like that. Like really not close to us, but close in retrospect to anything else moving towards us. So I don't know. Maybe they would bring up some shit like that. There's too many novel people using telescopes to be able to see something coming our way and not warn the public of it at a certain point.
Right.
I don't know.
But one thing I did want to talk about, the Roswell incident for one. But before I bring that up, I wanted to bring up the states with the most UFO sightings.
Oh man, I bet I can guess a few of these.
Let's go, dude. I don't know if you will.
I know somewhere in the New Mexico, Nevada area.
What? None of them are in the top. I have the top 4 written down.
So there's some in the very northeast of the country, like the Maine type area.
Yeah, so that Vermont and New Hampshire. Vermont was number 1.
Okay, nice. I'm close enough. That's all I got.
Alaska, that's a big one that I knew about. And Montana.
There's not even that many people in Alaska. Not as surprising.
I know. Not in Montana either, but it's very rural. But they've
maybe
made
those people
UFO
just haven't seen people in a long time. They're getting a little bit of cabin fever,
Maybe
they haven't, and so now they're just telling themselves crazy stories and shit. They're the kind of people that walk around just having conversations with themselves.
That's right,
aloud.
Like you.
Yeah. It's not like full out conversations, but I do talk to myself audibly. But like. It's pretty hilarious.
But I'm going to talk about the Roswell incident for a minute. So I don't know how many of you people have read up on the Roswell incident. I did just a little bit earlier.
Yeah, I've never really heard of it before. I mean, if someone had mentioned it to me before, I would have just thought it was some cool story maybe, and then never thought about it again.
Yeah, same, I guess. But when I looked it up, there's a lot of things at play, a lot of forces at play with with what happened there. So basically, I wrote down a small synopsis of the thing that happened. So something crashed in 1947. In the last 6 months of 1947 alone, there were over 300 UFO sighting claims in this one area of New Mexico. And the flying saucer, quote unquote, was reported by the Air Force at first.
Yeah, there was this guy named Kenneth Arnold in the same year, like a few months or so, it was a few weeks before the Roswell or whatever it was called. This guy, Kenneth Arnold, was flying his own plane around and said he saw some objects flying at thousands of miles per hour past him. And he reported it, and somehow it became saucer, and it was deemed flying saucer. But I just think that's hilarious, because I think a lot of it came actually after. This is all not from me. It's from what did I call it? Encyclopedia Britannica. So that's where actually all this came from. So go look it up. It's a pretty interesting read. But UFOs became popular after World War II. Like, they were creating different rocketry and things like that. So I quoted that word from the website, because I was not sure if that was a real word or not.
That's a good word.
But you would imagine, like, around that time, they're experimenting with different kind of equipment, I guess you would say.
Okay.
I don't know the best word for it.
Apparatuses.
Yeah.
Machines.
Technology, I guess, is the best word. We had better growing technology at that point, and started fucking around with shit, and then of course all these sightings came out, and people started seeing things in the sky. I think maybe that's their way of covering it up.
Maybe
that's what it kind of sounds like.
Maybe,
but ultimately you can't really argue with it. I guess so.
So this Roswell thing, there was just a lot of exchanges of information, lots of info webs, people not knowing enough to make a decision, so they call somebody else, and that person has to call somebody, and it's just a big web of shit. But after the flying saucer report was first posted in the paper, they went back on their word a little bit later, a couple days later, and said it was pieces of a weather balloon. They were reported after the pieces were further inspected, and the rancher who found the apparatus that had crashed in the desert corroborated the story. So that's not where it ends.
I want to take a sidestep, so you might want to finish your point before I do that.
Okay, well, this is a long point. I'll finish Roswell's whole thing. So after it was reported as a weather balloon, somebody came out later on, and it was a military intelligence officer. He said that he had never felt anything like that metal that was uncovered from the crash. He had never felt anything like it before. It was light. It was indestructible. They tried to hit it with a hammer, and it wouldn't budge. It was like they were holding air, is what I think that's a pretty direct quote. But it was indestructible and incredibly light. They called it memory metal, I'm pretty sure. So basically, one person and a bunch of people corroborated the story, is that they could take the metal. I say a bunch of people, it was probably 3 or 4.
Right.
But they could take the metal, put it in any shape, and then throw it back to where it was before, and it would resume the shape that it had held previously, completely rigid.
I'm guessing at that time too, being it not that long ago, but long enough where it would take a long time for people to relay information. Enough for you to somewhat make up a story.
Right.
You know, sorry again, I'm just going to interject for a second, but there's this thing on Netflix you can watch, and it talks about people's memories basically. And so they were like recalling a bunch of people's memory of where they were on a certain day, like watching 9/11 happen basically. And a lot of the people's stories, they went back and like checked the time and place and like how they would have seen it at this time, didn't actually match up with what they thought they saw of the whole situation. So it's funny how like feeble our memories are, and we kind of attach things together, and you can just kind of say something to someone, and they're thinking it subconsciously, so it seems original to them, but really someone just kind of implanted that on them. There was like some sort of interrogation thing where it was like, do you remember that day when you were walking across the crosswalk and you saw this lady? And so immediately you start to think like, okay, when was this time I was walking across a crosswalk and saw a lady? So it's easy for them to say, oh, you remember her? And you're like, okay, yeah, I do remember her. And it just like incriminates you as you go along.
Yeah.
So it's easy for, especially like I said, with the lack of information being able to spread as quickly as it could nowadays. It seems like things like that could play into the situation where stories kind of form together.
Definitely. And I think that happens more often than not, if I'm honest with you. And it can make a big deal out of other misunderstandings as well. Like, I mean, I don't know if how many of you have seen Making a Murderer, the Stephen Avery story.
Yeah, hell yeah.
But that's
yeah.
Wow, yeah. That's
Brendan.
that's some crazy shit. But anyways, it was admitted we're jumping back to Roswell.
Yeah.
It was admitted by the Air Force in 1994 as a cover-up. So basically they took a new picture of the material that they found at that site, and it was obviously material of a weather balloon, but they had planted that and made it look like they were taking pictures of a weather balloon. So there were a bunch of people. I'm missing a lot of this stuff. Y'all should look this up. The story of the Roswell incident. Just look it up on anything. Probably find 3 or 4 different sources to get yourself well informed on the subject. But some people claim to see alien bodies. The military came out and said that that's probably not true because we were dropping test dummies and parachutes to see how it would hurt a human being between 1950 and the late 1950s. So that doesn't make any sense because it started in 1947. That's when the Roswell incident happened. So It probably wasn't a dummy. Another thing is they said the people that saw these alien bodies, quote unquote, said that they were between 4 and 5 feet high and had larger heads and small bodies. And the dummies that they were dropping were close to 6 feet tall.
So the story didn't match at all.
Not really. Like you said, it could just be a case of mistaken identity.
And at the same time, there's 3 people out on a farm together that haven't seen anything in years. And then something weird kind of approaches and they make a story out of it. I don't know.
No. I'm not using that as validity for aliens.
No, I'm just trying to, like I said, be the devil's advocate for you.
No, I got you. But I'm almost done with this. Apparently, shortly after the main rancher who found the alien crash, after he recorded his recanted statements, saying that he didn't actually see these weird things, it was probably just a weather balloon. After that happened, he bought a new truck, sold his ranch, and moved to the city to pursue business.
No, that is awesome.
Also, the original files concerning this case, the Roswell case, were completely destroyed with no record of who destroyed them.
That man got paid off.
Yeah.
They were like, here's a couple million.
Have a nice life.
In the 40s.
Be gone.
They were probably like, here's $200,000. Have a great life.
But I thought that was funny. Just a lot more happened with that story than I expected.
If that happened to you, would you rather be a whistleblower or take the money and just go live?
I'd probably take the money.
Yeah.
Knowing it would be enough for me.
Yeah, that's true. Who cares to tell anybody else?
Nope.
Most people aren't going to handle it well. You know it's not going to be good for the general public. Take your money, just go live on vacation for the rest of your life.
That's right. I could just walk around and look at people like, you have no fucking idea.
They know about this shit.
That's right.
They had like names for the aliens when they picked them up. Like, God damn it, Daryl.
Man, another thing I wanted to talk about is the astronauts that landed on the moon. There was some
just took a jump.
Sort of. There's some questionable audio in the case of Neil Armstrong, at least.
It's so hard to believe nowadays, though, with like. It is so easy to make renditions or I don't know what you'd call it for audio, but Photoshop type things.
But if this audio is legit, it's a little worrying.
What does it say? Do you have it written down?
I heard the actual recording. I went on YouTube, found the actual recording of Neil Armstrong saying some weird shit.
Supposedly. Allegedly the real
If they did a good job of...
That's what I'm saying.
And nobody's saying he didn't say that shit. You can look up and find where somebody's saying that he didn't say this if you want to, but apparently he said, "They're here. They're parked beside the crater. They're watching us."
What if it was just the Russians?
It could have been.
Because they went to the moon a few times, right?
I don't know. Not at the same time as us. That's not known.
Yeah, not during the Apollo 11. But we had already had a few ships that went around the moon, right? Or am I wrong on that?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Anyhow.
I would have to look that one up.
So does it immediately attribute to another species?
No. It just attributes to somebody watching them from afar that we don't really know about. It could have been another human.
Another country.
And that's... I'll get into it. I wanted to jump too fast into it. Let's reel myself back.
Calm it down. Calm it down. So I have to ask you the most basic question. You don't have to answer it in long form, but do you do you think that we have always been alone on the earth? Just have to get your personal opinion in there, because we didn't make that clear from the start.
Have we always been alone on the earth?
Just humanoid creatures evolving as we did to be alone with.
It's hard for me to say yes or no. It's like
of course it is, but it's
like somebody asking me whether or not I believe in God. I'm one of those fucks that's agnostic.
But no, I feel like another species visiting Earth is way more likely than some divine creature creating the Earth and universe.
Well,
you know what I mean?
I don't know. I don't know, because
maybe that's
in the
just
end,
me, but
in the end, you will never know whether or not there was some divine thing that created this. Because if you admit we're in simulation theory, something created the simulation. So
right.
That would be our conception of God, not necessarily the Christian God.
Right. It could be some little child in a foreign universe.
I don't fucking know.
Yeah.
Nobody knows. But that's what I'm saying is
nobody
really knows about this either.
I don't want to get far into this, but the concept of God is way more of a complex idea than just some floating guy in the sky. I don't think anybody really thinks that. It's a lot about
some people. A lot of people probably do.
Yeah, maybe so. I hate to think that, but maybe I think it's a lot more complex in as far as like the stories and everything that comes along with religion and believing in a God is a part of what it is, more or less. So, anyways, I don't want to. We're talking about UFOs.
Yes, we are. Let's get back into that. But I think it's something that not a lot of people consider, is that most, if not all, of the UFOs probably come from Earth.
They can come from outer space, but it comes from a factor of coming through our Earth, I guess, or our atmosphere. But shortly after the Roswell or whatever, actually I think it was the next year, the U.S. Air Force actually launched a program to start investigating things. I'm just gonna read this because I don't remember it, but so they started what was called Project Sign. And then it went into Project something else, and then shortly transitioned into Project Blue Book, which was like the longest running investigation by the government to like find out what all these claims were about. And they ended up investigating like over 12,000 different cases, events, sightings, things like that. And they came to the conclusion, they had a way of like this person said it was like a sighting, like a phenomenon, whatever. They had ways of rating what each event was, and like only 6% of them were like actually unidentified, couldn't be explained according to the story or what was being told.
Right.
I thought that was pretty interesting, but that went on for like a while, and then I can't remember what happened, but they shut down that mission or the project in like 1969. I think some bad evidence came out, and they just figured out it was pretty much either like the military, some astronomical event, or just something not serious enough to prove that they were aliens. So they just shut the project down. But pretty crazy that the government started investigating. Yeah, I guess they had to, out of kind of like a response type thing.
Right. That, and yeah, I mean, that's mainly it, is what I would think is, I mean, the way that I see most government behavior and most high level corporate behavior is it's all like a chess game. They're all making moves for the public eye and to help them keep the favor in the public eye. And I mean, that
if not, they won't be voted back in.
Right. So the people that are working that program may not have any idea of what those things actually are, but somebody connected, maybe not to the government, but I think somebody on Earth, most of the time, most likely, know what those things are.
Whether they want to,
because I just don't think people give Earthlings enough credit. For example,
I think most people give themselves way too much credit, actually, on a personal basis, but maybe on like
in that level, they don't consider that those things could have come from Earth. They don't, because they don't know how it works. Then nobody else could do it. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, that's what
They've seen rockets, and they haven't seen things that levitate and move around. They don't consider that may be a human,
kind of
or maybe not a human invention. Maybe, gosh, I'm getting way too deep.
No, go for it. I want to hear what you're gonna say.
Well, this is getting into the point where I think it's possible that humans aren't the only intelligent species living on the planet.
With that,
this sounds like a crazy fucking rant that I'm.
This could be a whole conspiracy we get into if you want.
I mean, I don't want to disclose
whether it's one to you or not.
I don't know. All right, let me explain it this way. So, technology and free information have been suppressed for forever.
Yeah.
The free pursuit of higher technology as well has been suppressed for forever.
AKA Tesla.
That's what I was going to say. He is case in point number one.
Yeah. I'm sure there's plenty others like him.
There is probably no limit to the amount of times that that's happened. Now, I don't think it's super crazy to say that pretty much a lot of knowledge has been lost, but pretty much every technology that has come about probably has a home somewhere, especially if it was significant. If something as imperative as like anti-gravity or some crazy shit happened,
right?
I think it would be suppressed, but not just suppressed, harnessed by the people that suppressed it.
Or found it.
Or whatever. Yeah. And kept away from the public. So I'm not saying just anti-gravity. That's just an arbitrary example.
Could be some plasma gun or something.
I mean,
some
we
bullshit,
have at our disposal fucking plasma arcs that you can buy on the internet as lighters.
You literally have one in your disposal.
I do. Now, how in the hell... There is some crazy fucking shit that exists on this planet right now.
Yeah.
Things that normal humans will never be able to fathom.
And shouldn't worry about it. I mean, I agree with the sort of control on information to that degree. Because people on their daily lives should just not have to worry about that kind of shit. You have no involvement. There's too many people to everyone have a say in this kind of things. If that were the case, then not a goddamn thing would get done. You know, people would just go on bickering about it for forever, and we would just die and kill ourselves.
Yeah.
So there, like, seriously, but there has to be some sort of control group that just says, like, this is the way it's gonna be done, and everyone else is just gonna have to deal with it.
Right.
You know, why not make people none the wiser? Just live in your life, just go on about your way,
and
think about yourself. Here's entertainment, here's
people
whatever you need, and we'll
be lazy.
We'll do whatever we want over here.
Be
on the
mindless
side.
as hell. Smoke weed, watch porn. Don't worry about a damn thing, you sweetheart, because we got it handled. And in the background, they're really just harnessing everything, controlling everything. Our reality is their chess game.
There's got to be a lot of people that come and go, though. You know, like I said, everyone can be involved there. So there's going to be just generations of people that just have to be accessed and have no sort of idea what's going on with that sort of central idea, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, it would have to be just like I was talking about with the Roswell incident, like a serious spread of information. Everything's confidential.
Can you think you could, like, the government could buy off like 100 to 500 people that may have seen some shit, like a whole town that saw some crazy shit?
Maybe.
You think?
But they might not have to.
They do it in like the Avengers all the time, right?
Well,
like,
yeah, but they haven't. They haven't had to. Like, there are UFO sightings with hundreds of witnesses. They don't really have to buy off everyone.
They can just kind of manipulate.
They can use
the info,
disinformation. Yeah, it's not. Especially if you have some sort of control in some mainstream media, you can just throw a little, like even a little sentence into the wrench and it'll go wild. Like, people have their sources. I don't know where they all come from. I don't know where different, like CNN and NBC gets their shit. I don't know.
That kind of leads me to a different point of like the fact that we do have such technology now. Why do not more people have videos of this stuff? Why don't more people? Yeah, do not.
There are some videos. I found some.
There are a lot of videos, and there's some interesting ones, but not enough ones that would be like convincing enough. Like if everybody has a cell phone, then or pretty much everybody has a cell phone, they can video some shit pretty quickly. You would think this stuff would be happening all the time.
You would think so.
You get blurry videos, you get kind of bullshit, you get like...
But there's no modern shit that happens. And I see that as if an alien, or not necessarily an alien like I was just talking about, if somebody has the technology to create these crazy crafts, they have the ability to know that there are a bunch of little annoying things on the surface of the earth that have cell phones.
Why would they?
And they're gonna...
Why would they give a shit?
I know that's not going down this road. We
discussed this in last episode pretty much, but...
They're trying to let us... They're trying to keep us out of their way.
So
the best way to keep us out of their way would be that we don't know.
Okay, this... I would say on their way to what, but let me just ask you this question. If somehow we as a population found out a new way to travel light years away, whatever, if we came on another planet and saw a life pretty different than ours, but we saw it there, would we go in unobvious, trying to be like undercover, just dipping in and out here and there, or would we just land on the fucking surface one day, scoop up some shit and just go?
I don't know.
It'd be this big obvious thing, because I don't think we would try to be like crazy and sneaky.
You don't think there would be any communication back and forth between the surface and our probe? You don't think they would try to reach somebody, radio frequencies, nothing?
Yeah, I would think that.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think, but I'm thinking if we're going into another place, we're not going to really give a shit whether
but
to like
you're
hide.
Speaking from you. You're not speaking from the people who are intelligent and that kind of shit.
Well, that's what I'm just trying to ask you. If we could do that sort of thing, how do you think we would do it?
If once we got to that point, I really think we would try to study. We would at first see where this planet is with their awareness of things. If they have representatives, meet with the representatives, talk things in that way.
But how could you land and not be the most obvious thing to everybody?
There are a lot of very desolate places around.
That's true.
Lots of them.
And no sort of information like that would have leaked, I guess, at all.
If there's like 4 or 5 people there, no.
That's not enough to represent the whole world.
Well, that's what you say as a democratic person, but it's not chosen that way.
I'm trying to make it as clear as possible. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I don't know. I don't have that much faith in us, I guess. And I'm thinking but from our perspective, yeah, because if we got to that point, I just think people are just more belligerent and obnoxious than that, I guess. They would just plow in going, hey, oh, what the fuck's going on? Like, take some shit, study it. Maybe try to interact a little bit, but overall not be afraid to be some obvious thing that happens.
Man, I honestly feel like you're taking a personification of some typical person and putting it into... and putting that personality into the scientists and the really intelligent people that would make the trip there. It's not like we're taking a busload of people from Walmart and putting them on this place.
Oh, man. Could you imagine how much complaining would be going on?
I want cheese.
I haven't had salt in years.
But no, I think that the people that would go out to a foreign planet and try to study the life would want to, at least at first, be careful about what they're doing.
Okay.
Instead of just swooping in and going, "Yay, we're here, guys. What's up?"
Yeah, right. We're here to just say what's up, see how you're doing. We're going to poke some things.
No, I just don't think that's how it would happen, personally.
I would hope not. And you're right. Maybe I should be more optimistic, but sometimes it's very easy not to be.
Yeah.
I have a weird... No, never mind. I'm not going to go.
Oh, no. Come on.
It was about, like, space travel in general. It's not really pertaining, but I'm just thinking of something moving fast across the universe. Like, if you could move at the speed of light, wouldn't time pretty much stop or not exist for you? So you could pretty much get anywhere in a small amount of time. I know we say things are millions of light years away, right? But like if you left Earth and went to that place 80 million light years away, we would observe it from here as it taking you 80 million light years to get there.
Right.
However, from your perspective of going near the speed of light, time would slow down so much that would it be pretty much instantly?
I honestly think that time would just be a different thing at that point. But you can't really fathom what would happen at the speed of light. And relativity only goes so far. I mean, it works, but relativity doesn't explain what happens at the edge of a black hole and all that kind of shit. It doesn't explain certain things about our reality. And I don't necessarily think that at the speed of light, if we were actually to get to the speed of light, because almost every physics problem that I've done deals with at max 0.99 the speed of light.
Yeah, it's not gonna. There's nothing we're gonna be able to get there.
Something would just be different once we got there.
Yeah, there's no way you can, because things moving, energy moving at that rate would just act in a completely different way. Anyway, sorry, I'm not gonna go on that point.
No,
that could go on
for
for
was
forever.
A good question, though. Did you know that there was a UFO sighting at the 2012 Olympics?
At the 2012 Olympics,
Uh-huh.
It never hits home for me. And it's never like, oh, cool, like I'm interested. It always, to me, is immediately like, it's just somebody thought they saw some bullshit, like, or
No,
they saw some reflection. They saw something through the fog.
Shit
some
captured on national television, and there were no aircraft sanctioned to be in the area at the time. And
probably
something
just
flew across the screen.
Some upper middle class guy on his little plane,
probably
flying across the sky, not even having
that.
any clue.
Yeah, who knows? But I just wanted to, by the end of the podcast, for the most part, make the point that most of the UFOs, if not all of the UFOs, probably come from our planet.
Yeah, there are a lot of cool stories. Like if you're just interested in the whole idea of it, there are a ton of cool stories to read. Like this one that happened in Washington. The government got like a physicist and an engineer and, well, I wrote it down, like an astronomer and all these people to get this information from a bunch of people, and then hid the information of some of the report for like 25 years before they released it to the public. There's all kind of crazy shit out there, and it makes you wonder, and it's obviously good for a good conversation or ideal for a good conversation. But
there's some weird shit that goes on, man.
But I would agree with you though that a lot of it probably attributes to some shit that came through the atmosphere, or some, I want to say optical illusion, but something that people just think they see.
Mistaken identity.
Yeah.
But in the end, now that I'm kind of working on my final remarks, it really bothers me. It really bothers me that that people that see UFOs just don't attribute things to human possibilities.
It's immediately something foreign.
Of course. And
alien, I should say, in this case.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I didn't have like a place I was going with that. I just needed to make sure it was known that that's a huge possibility.
Yeah, I think, like I said, on the opposite of that, it's not. You should not immediately assume that just because you don't know what it is, that it is something alien, something not from this planet. It's fun to think about again, but most of the time, if not all of the time, for the things that we know of so far, it's probably just some astronomical phenomena, I guess you would say.
Probably.
Or some, like, again, optical illusion or something like that. Right? I don't know.
Yep.
Who's to say? Could really be some shit out there going on.
Yeah, there is a lot of crazy shit out there, man. I mean,
could be some people spying on us just to see what kind of experiment they set up millions of years ago.
Right. I mean, like, one of my main things that I talk about with regards to the kind of suppression of information, the kind of shit that we're talking about right now, is they didn't release Tesla's work for almost 100 years after he died.
That's insane.
The FBI held on to that for that long.
Probably the CIA.
And it just kind of, it blows my mind now that they weren't okay with the public knowing a lot of the shit that Tesla did. But now they're willing to release officially notarized UFO sightings.
Yeah.
Things that are actually legit.
Things that came from the Department of Defense to clearly state that they are not sure what it was.
Right. And the fact that they're comfortable with doing that makes me wonder how far they've come.
If that's what they're willing to release.
Yeah, there's a lot more going on than that.
I mean, I think everyone on a personal base, well, maybe not everyone, but a lot of people would be like, yeah, I would love to know that kind of information. But I know I've asked you this personally before, but, would you really want to know? Don't speak for yourself because you can explain your answer, but would the majority of people really want to know if some shit like that was going on?
I don't think the majority would. They might say they would, but the majority, if they actually knew what was going on, I mean, I can't say that I can fathom what's going on, but I really think the majority of people really couldn't handle it because it would break down their entire reality. Yeah,
everything that you know and kind of base yourself off of, and just the structures that we were built with and thought of for thousands of years have kind of completely changed now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people would want to know, man. I think a lot of people would just come to this conclusion how minuscule we really are in that sense, and it wouldn't be good for most people. So
probably not.
So no, I don't think, even though we all say it's way more fun just to think about the possibilities than to actually know what's going on.
Mm-hmm. That's true. It's entertaining. It kind of keeps our brains swimming.
It is. There's always possibilities out there, and I think that the road of discovering it is way more fascinating than the actual answer of it.
Yeah.
If we just knew all this shit, it wouldn't be interesting. It would just be what it is.
That's right. Well, I guess that's how religious people feel, right? They already know the answers, so.
Wouldn't that be boring? Yeah, wouldn't that be boring though?
I don't know. It seems boring to me, but it comes down to the same question. I'd rather have unanswered questions than unquestioned answers. I would most definitely rather have unanswered questions.
It's way easier the other way.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably true if you know you're going to go to heaven.
I can be happy.
And because you like little boys, you going to hell.
Will there be some little boys there? All right. Anyways.
Are we done here?
I think I'm finished. I think I've hit pretty much the stuff I had to talk about.
Okay.
If we might move on to the last segment here.
Yeah.
If you're ready for that.
I'm ready for that.
Which was again called, what'd you call it? The reaction game?
Yeah. Quick reactions.
Quick reactions. Okay. So you do 5 and then I'll do 5 and we'll go from there. Yeah.
All right. That's fair. All right. Swing.
Penis.
Fruitcake.
Strawberries.
Japan.
Little people.
The people. The moon.
Craters.
Feather boa.
What is that? A snake?
Sure. It's the long. It's people put them on you during parties, and like particularly I think Mardi Gras is a place where they are. It's like a big, long, feathery, fluffy pink thing.
You thought you barely know what that is, and
Feather
you thought
boa.
I would know what that is.
I didn't say you had to know what it is. I was just getting a reaction.
All right, you're right. Let me hit you with 5. Let me make sure I got 5 here. Okay. Rascal Flats.
The Move.
Blue cheese.
Cheese.
4-legged mammals.
Dogs.
Breast milk.
My mom.
Double-sided tape.
2-headed dillies.
All right.
Oh, it's too much.
Yeah, that went way off track.
All right, here we go.
All right.
Music.
Fingernails.
Conglomerate.
Sticky.
Punk rock.
Mohawks.
Bagels.
Cheese.
Penis pump.
Not me.
That's not mine. I swear, man. It's not.
Oh, that's good. I gotta pee so bad. This is not good for me. All right, you ready?
Yes, let's go.
Okay. Number 1. Pistol-shaped sticks.
Annie Oakley.
Bob Barker.
Bogs.
Boston Terriers.
Market.
Dirty Q-tips.
My ears.
Pizza crust.
Your crust.
It's pretty relevant. They're about the same.
Man. I
definitely cheese stuffed.
Definitely blue cheese stuff.
I wouldn't mind that. What? Oh, do they do that on a pizza? Blue cheese stuffed crust?
Fucking hope not.
No, I don't think they could. Yeah, they could totally.
I want to reach across this table and strangle you.
You should just punch the mic into my face.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for joining us for this edition of Cause and Defect, this show for serious conversations with not so serious people. This has been episode 14.
14.
All about UFOs.
Wow.
If you had anything else that you would like to add, if you want to mention something that we forgot to mention,
Yep.
please do so in the comments.
Also, don't forget to like, subscribe, thumbs up, comment, all that kind of good stuff. If you do like the material that we are talking about, or just like our ramblings back and forth to one another. Because believe it or not, we actually do this all the time, even off camera.
That's true.
So we'd appreciate the support. If not, I guess I understand. But
I don't.
Yeah, I judge you.
Like and subscribe, you motherfuckers. I'm just kidding.
Awesome.
Hope you guys have a wonderful night.
Thanks for staying tuned in.